wish to call to order the work session of the Monroe County Board of Commissioners. It is February 22nd, 2023, and all three commissioners are present here in the Nat U Hill Room. We have, I believe, one item on our agenda, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Purdy.
Yes, good morning. This is a proposed draft of a county fleet policy. The county has operated for a number of years with more of a verbal version of this policy, but it is beneficial to everybody involved that we be able to actually look at and reference a document. So nothing in this has changed from how we've been practicing over the course of my experience here in Monroe County. This will be a living and breathing document, so changes will happen as we go forward. It helps us to be responsible for any federally purchased vehicles because we have to comply with federal regulations on how those vehicles are disposed. And it also helps us to understand how we dispose of our own vehicles, and that all of these vehicles are purchased and under the authority of the Board of Commissioners, which also includes the law enforcement vehicles. And so this draft is for in-house, basically. And we will be making some changes. There was one note prior to coming in here that law enforcement officers frequently will use their vehicle for a job that is not necessarily specific to our sheriff's department, for instance, the IU football games. And so they are allowed to use their vehicle in the commission of that job, protecting traffic and the public and things of that nature. The one thing we do want to make clear, because it's not clearly stated in the document, is that those jobs have to be within Monroe County. They cannot be in an outside county, because we do allow for those entities that have a take-home vehicle, we do allow them to take their vehicle home, not for personal use. It's supposed to be just coming to and from work, but they have to live in the contiguous counties. That's it.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments?
No, I think you covered pretty much everything.
Yeah. I have a couple of minor things. I think it'd probably just be best if it's more linguistic than just clarifying things. So I can just send an email and we can.
Most definitely, because fresh eyes are always good.
Yeah. No, I think it's good. I think, yeah, making sure that we're very clear on this for everybody is important.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out to the public that for our law enforcement and a few of the other jobs that have a take-home vehicle, that this occurs because it allows them to get back here more quickly in times of an emergency. And so that's part of the reason that we do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is there?
And since I negotiate the deputy contract, I'm also aware that the IRS treats a sheriff's vehicle that is marked much differently because of there's an understanding that as if you see a sheriff's deputy, and I'm as guilty as this as anyone else, you tend to drive better, you tend to drive safer, you tend to do better things. So I think there's a recognition that just having a marked vehicle on the road leads to public safety.
Thank you. I can't imagine you ever needing to slow down, Mr. Cockrell.
No, I can't either. But they also do stop even if they're off duty and assist motorists in need, which is really a great service. I know state police do that as well.
Yes.
And it's really a great service to have that, and we appreciate that they take that role on very willingly.
They do.
And are a really big help in the community. So I've seen it a few times.
And I can speak directly and personally. My son is, as a deputy, he will frequently be traveling on his off duty and stop and assist the motorist. And so, yeah, I know that it happens all the time. I also know that he keeps 1 gallon of gas in his vehicle. for people who've run out of gas, just to help get them to the next gas station. So we've got a lot of really wonderful people out there working for our law enforcement.
That's really nice to hear. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to bring something to the work session?
I'd like to, and I want to make sure that you're clear on this as well as who's ever the public. We had a public comment this morning talking about responsibilities with the jail facility, and she read the sheriff's letter, and I don't even think the sheriff intended that message was going to go out. So this is in no way, he was talking about some pretty specific things, but there are two different statutes that deals with the jail and who has the authority and responsibility in it. One is the sheriff, in the sheriff's portion of the code, has the duty to take care of the jail and the prisoners there. All right, and then there's a separate statute under the commissioners that has a statutory duty to establish and maintain a county jail. The courts have kind of interpreted that maintenance to be keep in good repair, more structural type issues. So historically, and I think the case law and the statutes, I don't want to give a dissertation on the case law for everyone. They've essentially looked at the shell of the building and then the mechanicals and, you know, the heating and cooling system, the plumbing, and those kind of things are really the county commissioner's responsibility. And then the operational side, the cleaning, the minor, unclogging of sinks and things like that really fall more under that sheriff's duty to take care of the jail and prisoners there, because it's more related to the living conditions of the prisoners as opposed to the structure itself. So that's kind of how this, of course there's overlap there, right? I mean, it's not a clear bright line, this goes there, that goes there, but there are pretty major categories that I think you can outline out of that. There's always going to be something in the middle that may be one way or the other. But just to be clear, it's not the commissioner's sole responsibility to do all those things. A lot of that's the sheriff, particularly when we're talking about cleaning and those kind of, and again, I'm not saying anything I don't think the sheriff would agree with here, right? So I just wanted to be clear to make sure you're aware and make sure the public's aware that there is a distinction there. There's two different statutory authorities that outline these duties, and in some regards, for a lot of things, they're pretty distinct, but there is a gray area in the middle.
And I think it's also that when things like cleaning supplies and whatnot are needed, it's not the commissioners that authorize the release of funds to make that happen. Those are things that the county council is responsible for.
Well, and I think the county council has their responsibilities in funding. The county council also has a responsibility to describe and set the wages for any new position or any position within the county. So they have a role, I guess, once the determination or once we decide there is a problem, it's this group's responsibility. And then the funding aspect may involve the county council having to step in and also have a review of the situation.
Could I ask you to please repeat the definitive requirements or the authorities, in the sense that the commissioners have not been historically, and there's nothing statutorily that indicates they have to do the cleaning and the sanitization of this facility?
Well, I think cleaning would, I think in my mind, and I think if you look at this case law, well, I think the cleaning would definitely fall under the category that, and this is in quotes, to take care of the county jail and the prisoners there.
Which is the sheriff.
That is under the sheriff's duties, and that is his statutory duty.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And, I've been in this chair 10 years now. It's really difficult to work through things via emails sent out to media or whatever. And in the past, with past administration, the sheriff's administrations, we've just had conversations. We would like to, we talked about one of the examples today, we'd like to have body cameras on those who are serving doing civil process service and we negotiated and worked out how we would fund that. So, you know, I think this is about, you know, respecting everybody's office and everybody's authority and understanding the limits of authority as well. And understanding that we all have a role to play, and we've continued to play our role as the Board of Commissioners in terms of maintaining the building. It's in horrible shape. We will all tell you that.
That's why one of the reasons we need a new one,
That's
yes.
why we need a new facility. And so we're, you know, and it's not ideal. It's not always ideal. But even in our last GO bond, we put money in the bond for locks, and we did that with the caveat that we would only replace what we absolutely had to, because we need a new facility. And to put, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars into the structure of the building that is not going to be serving as a facility in the near future, and it could be a few years away, as short as a few years away. Everybody says 5, but there's nothing
We
saying
can
it
do it
has
in
to be
3.
5. To put a lot of money into that means that you're taking those funds that you could use for a new facility and for better treatment and services and programming, and you're putting it into a facility you're no longer going to use. And so it's a very fine line to walk, and it doesn't mean that we're not open to hearing requests for facility building related structural issues that we can address. The insurance claim on the roof was filed in 2022. Sheriff Marte wasn't even here. But ASI is our conduit. They are the folks that have been hired and have been doing a fabulous job, and now we have Mr. Kreider doing fleet and building services as well. And we're all working together, and we continue to work together. So I don't really understand why we have to send emails when we could sit down and have a conversation. But, you know, it's unfortunate. I'm not going to let it stop us, and we're not going to let it stop us, I should say, from, you know, continuing to invite the sheriff's administration to sit down and talk through things. We're happy to do that, but we don't control funding. We do not control new positions. We do not control cleanliness in this jail. That is not our job. That is his job. And if the facility was in a sorry state when he took office, and I understand the hard work that it's taking to get that repaired and updated in terms of cleanliness and paint, I appreciate that, and I know everybody in that facility, from inmates to staff, appreciate it. But that never fell on us, and it should never fall on us. We are here to support that work in whatever way we can, but we don't have a role. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think also that, speaking personally, I still have things to learn about being an elected official and what those roles are, how we divide things and work together. And so I would urge Sheriff Marte and his staff to reach out to us when there are questions, because we're not looking to thwart anybody's efforts, and I applaud the cleanliness that he and his staff are trying to bring to the jail, the different attitude. I think it is more humane than what has been occurring recently, but we don't have certain authority to do things, and it's hurtful to have these kinds of things said when I can't push the button and make it happen. I see we have 1 or 2 people sitting here in the Nat U Hill room. Is there any other department update that we should be aware of? Seeing none, I call for adjournment, and we'll be back.
Kelly.
Oh, Kelly, now. Okay. Sorry. Good morning, Ms. Whitmer.
Good morning. I have a simple matter. On the Cars Farm Greenway, our rapid flashing beacon was plowed over. It is going to take some time to get it corrected, but, oh, is Molly behind me? Or about the service agreement?
So I think the concern that Parks has is that they do not want to delay the vendor in replacing this. And so we, wanted to make the commissioners aware that this beacon has been plowed down and there's a safety concern. And then I think Kelly is asking if we can go ahead and start working with the Evansville vendor. We don't have a service agreement in place yet, but we could then bring it to the commissioners for ratification after so that we can get this emergency situation fixed.
I was just going to say, it sounds like an emergency situation.
It's a safety
Yeah, it needs
issue.
to be corrected as soon as possible. I know it's not, prime time for people on the trail, but people are using the trail and we need them to be safe, so I'm okay with that. Are you?
I'm
Absolutely.
Yes, and in fact, I think we saw this flashing beacon when we were out there, when we,
Yeah,
wow,
thank you.
yes. Okay, now is there anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Whitner, for being here and for staying with us. So at this point, I will adjourn this work session. Thank you very much.